Today, we're going to share a story with my grandfather, Alan Neal. Gratefully, we have the privilege to bring this story to you. Basically, he was in the Navy for 4 years back in the 1950s. Now, as we all know, back in the 50s, racism was very much alive, not only in this country, but also in our military as well. So today, we're going to share that story with you, one of the many stories he has, just to give a brief description in a scenario where discrimination has unfortunately touched his life and is still with him to this day in the year 2010. Again, I'm going to introduce my grandfather, Alan Neal. He's going to share a story where he was in a situation traveling, via bus to a firefighting training.
Yeah, I think it was around 1956, May, June, something like that. And our ship had incurred some damage from an aircraft attempting to land and unsuccessful, hit the island structure, radar, and so on and so forth. And the damage was severe enough that we had to go in the shipyard in Brooklyn, Navy Yard, and estimated time for repairs was 6 to 8 months. So while we were there in the shipyards, the air boss decided to send a number of airmen to firefighting school in Norfolk, Virginia. I was one of those selected to go because I was on the crash crew, and the crash crew is the firefighting group on flight deck. So came time to go, and we loaded aboard up on the bus and headed south towards Norfolk, Virginia. After probably a few hours travel, we were hungry, but it had been prearranged for us to have lunch in a restaurant in Delaware, state of Delaware. So the bus stopped, and everybody started piling off the bus, yours truly included. Mm-hmm. And we went to the door, and the guys were just filing in. And when it came my turn to go through the door, the owner, manager, or whatever, the restaurant said, "Hey, where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to have lunch like the rest of the guys." He said, "Oh, no, you're not." He said, "If you're hungry, you see those steps over there?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you go down those steps and see Miss Mattie, and Miss Mattie will give you something to eat." And so I was not that familiar with racism, but that was one of my many experiences of racism as a sailor. But I think Miss Mattie fixed me a little bigger plate, and the food was probably a little better tasting, and so I came out all right.
All right. From your memory, can you describe basically the owner to me, maybe his characteristics?
He was just an ordinary looking white man, and smallish build, and that's about all I can say.
How was his demeanor toward you? Was he sarcastic?
Oh, he was
very rude.
I can't the word I want to use, but he was oh God, what is the word I want to use? He was talked down to me, and
demeaning.
Not very courteous or anything whatsoever, and but I was kind of used to that.
And speaking of that, what was your reaction to him when he told you that you couldn't join your fellow shipmates? Did your heart fall? Were you angry?
No, you know, when you experience these things, your feathers fall. Sometimes it even sometimes causes you to tear. You know, when you feel you're there for the same purpose as the rest of them, but you get treated different. So that was pretty much how it happened.
And speaking to you earlier, you were speaking of a superior officer that was with you, that traveled alongside with you. Why do you think that person chose to be a part of the background instead of a protagonist? And like you said, saying if he can't eat here, you know, none of us are going to eat here. Was it the times? You know, why did he take that route?
Because it was acceptable to the majority males to discriminate against minority males. It was okay with them. They got their nickels worth and enjoyed a superior status, and of course we had to sit in the back of the bus, so to speak.
Yeah. You know, I really want to thank you for sharing your story with us. I think that even in, you know, our generation and the year that we're in, 2010, stories like that, you know, still are somewhat skeletons in, you know, in our country's closet. I think it's healthy to share these stories and to just make this generation aware of how far we've come and who has fought for our freedoms and our rights. And I really do appreciate the time. And this concludes our interview. Again, this is my grandfather, Alan Neal, who served in the Navy proudly. And I thank you for watching.